Hello, Matt, my man. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm so glad to be here and be a part of this wonderful opportunity.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. Matt, you say I truly appreciate you. And you see, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Matt, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Matt, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Matt, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Matt. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. There is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Matt that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insights, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions, my man. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, Matt, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Matt is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish and even with the audience. And here we are today
Right.
with the amazing Matt. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's get started, Max. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Matt, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, Matt, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Matt on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, my man, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Matt, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Matt got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Matt, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. I guess what I would start with is that my leadership journey did not start in a boardroom. It actually started in a bedroom, believe it or not. And what I mean by that is I grew up in a house of 10. Had five brothers and two sisters plus my parents, but six of us boys all shared one bedroom, and you learn some things pretty quickly when you have to share that space with each other. You learn that community happens not in isolation, but in faithful daily presence. And believe me, we had to learn about forgiveness. We had to learn about responsibility. We had to learn that to be heard didn't mean being the loudest. Sometimes it meant being the best listener. And to get control didn't involve force. It involved compromise, and it involved working together. And so, in many ways, before I even knew what the language of leadership was, I was learning how to live faithfully through the lessons being learned in that bedroom. And I didn't know it then, but I think that was a starting process, and having that opportunity to continue to grow and to find my own self in this world, and I've dealt with my own trauma in life. And the one thing that I discovered, that what helped me be successful despite that trauma, was that I always had a safe place, even in that chaos of the home that I was growing up. The relationships are what was healing me and kept me strong, and not necessarily a particular treatment model or a treatment intervention. And that's not to say that those interventions that we use that are informed by evidence and trauma aren't vitally important to the work, but they only work, in my mind, through the healing power of presence. And that presence comes in the form of relationships.
Healing power of presence, and the presence only come through relationships. I got that. So you made use of the word trauma, and that's going to lead to the first question. So,
Okay.
you wrote a book, an amazing book titled Beyond Trauma Care. So, what inspired you to write that book, and how was the writing process?
Sure. Well, I think what has inspired me is I see so many organizations and so many professionals that are really doing amazing work, but are continuing to struggle with healing not fully happening. And again, I think sometimes we can write the best treatment plan. We can use some of the best relationship treatment models, but unless and I see a lot of push for trauma informed practices and treatments, and I fully support them because that is important in the work we do. But what I wanted to stress in my book was that we have to go beyond the trauma intervention and understand that the role of attachment and the role of healing broken relationships, that science can do so much, but healing actually occurs in that attachment, that attunement, that relationship with another person who's with you along that healing process. And so it really is about combining the healing of science with the power of relationships. And that message to me is more than just about working with individuals. It's really about how do we operate as organizational to take care of the healers, so that we also have to have this. And I wanted this book to be an opportunity for leaders of organizations to ask, how are we helping our own employees and our own people heal within this process as well?
Amazing. That sounds like a very powerful book with effective approaches. Amazing. Thank you for writing that. So you made use of the word healing presence earlier before I asked you the question. So I wanted to know more about that, and how can leaders become a healing presence instead of burning out?
Yeah. So I think, you know, early in my career, I was driven by results, and the pressure was that my leadership required, action, results, fast pace, make things happen. And along the way, people got lost in that. And so I learned that sometimes we need to slow down, allow things to work, of course, in God's time. Um, but but to do that through a opportunity to where we see our actions as leader as an opportunity to help people grow and to help folks learn. And so that mistakes don't always have to be confronted with an immediate consequence or immediate, punishment, or the things that I found that motivate people, whether it be pay, bonus, that those things aren't always the driving force for individuals. It's creating an environment where people feel safe, where they know that they have an opportunity to make mistakes, and that the leader will still be present even when things get tough, even when there's crisis to deal with. They need to know that their leader is going to stay with them and be with them as a part of that. And when I think individuals feel safe, and that's what we've learned through the trauma and attachment science, is that when we feel scared and we're frightened and feared, we often operate in our back brain, which is setting us up to be hyper vigilant, to be in a place of mistrust, to be in a place where I either have to fight, flight, or I'm going to freeze, and I'm not going to be able to do the work that's necessary. But if we can provide that sense of safety, what we allow is for our employees and those that we support to be innovative, to be creative, to be themselves, the best version of themselves, and we do that by simply being present in both the good and the bad, and showing up. I think that's the number one thing that, and I'm trying to tell my folks, every one of you are leaders every day simply because you've showed up. Yeah, leadership is not titles. Leadership is taking that first yes, and that first yes in the morning to say, I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be able to make a difference today because of that. Because I may sit with a child who is really hurting, and hear their story, and hold their hand. So I think that's my approach, and that's the approach that I try to help leaders understand, that creating that culture of safety is probably the most effective way that you can help your organization grow.
I tell you, my man. And you were making this feel like myself and the audience are in a leadership class. Thank you very much. I
So,
love how
so
you made the explanation very easy to understand. Thank you. So there is this one also I'm kind of curious about. So what is DTAP in simple terms? Can you talk to us about that?
yes. Well, I think that's the nice thing too. My book will reference Chaddock's evidence-based treatment model. It's listed on the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse as an informed practice that has proven evidence to support the healing of children. But it's called the Developmental Trauma and Attachment Program. And it really is the idea that we recognize that all the children that we particularly work with on a day to day basis have experienced some significant form of trauma in their life. And that trauma has led to significant broken relationships. So that's the attachment piece. And again, so often organizations again will state that they are trauma informed or they're implementing trauma practices, sometimes because they've simply gone to one trauma informed training, or they've read one book on trauma informed. But to give an example of this, a few years ago, I was sitting with a child that had really gone through more hurt and more broken relationships and struggles than I think most of your adult listeners have experienced in their own life. And we had probably the best treatment plan based on what was supposed to work. And the best knowledge. But I sat with a child who was sharing their hurts, and I didn't have an answer. So all I could do was sit and listen and engage. And the next day, that child invited me back to hear more of their story. And what that began to see is I began to see slowly that child who wouldn't make eye contact even with anybody when they first came here, who would reject any form of play, any form of nurture, suddenly, slowly began to change. And it was in that moment that I realized that it wasn't the science that was healing here, it was the relationship. And yes, did I continue to use the tools of the practice that I've been trained in? Sure. But it opened my eyes that when that's combined with true relationship, that's when healing can really happen. And so that's that has driven the developmental trauma and attachment program, or DTAP, DTAP, and that is something that we wish to share and help other organizations bring into their organizations. It's not something that we want to keep here in Quincy, Illinois, here in America. We want to be able to spread this out and invite others to turn their culture and their organizations into relationship healing organizations.
Relationship healing organizations. I got that. So, what about this one? What do adults need to understand about kids in pain? Just to talk more on what you just shared now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, when we think of trauma, and trauma can be many things. It could be living through an earthquake. It could be, seeing a shooting. It could be being abused, whether that be physical abuse or sexual abuse. But when you think of all those things don't occur in isolation. They do occur along with relationships. For instance, in that earthquake, how someone responds immediately to that child that has gone through that tragic event will impact how well they cope with all that perhaps suffering that has taken place as a result of that. When the child is physically abused, especially by someone that should be keeping them safe, that becomes a significant broken relationship. And that the science will tell us that when those things happen, children's brains don't continue to develop fully. They do continue, and we use a three-phase model here that recognizes a child where they're at in their brain development: back brain, midbrain, or frontal cortex. And back brain, when we find a child that is living there, that is again that basic instinct that I have to keep myself safe because the adults around me won't. Relationships have hurt me, and instead of healing me. And so we then know that our intervention models have to be built around about helping a child feel safe, not just physically safe, but emotionally safe, and trust that the adults truly are there to be caretakers. And so that's the first thing that I would tell an adult is, if you recognize a child that appears to be perhaps acting out, having significant problems, don't ask what's wrong with the child. Instead, ask, I wonder what happened to this child that put them in this place, and how can I help them feel not only physically safe, but emotionally safe? Because that will still start helping them move to their midbrain, which is really about building connections. And that's where we are able now to trust, begin to build trust with another person, and begin to feel like we can explore the world more safely. And once we get to that point, we can move up to that frontal cortex, and that's really where we now can become our own person and make good decisions and confidence. So it's not what's happened to the child, what's wrong with the child, but more about what's happened to the child, and can I be an adult figure that can provide the safety that the child can let me know what that was, so that I can walk through them on that journey.
Wow, this is so beautiful, Matt. I tell you, you've just opened my eyes to something beautiful. I never knew all of these stuffs before. That's amazing, my man. And am I permitted to explain this to others? Oh, thank you. I tell you, this is so
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, so finally, my man. Okay, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, make a purchase of your amazing book, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Well, I'm hopefully that I'm sharing how my leadership journey has changed me, and you know, allowed me to build the culture here that's built on trust, that invites reflection, um, that is really that leaders choose presence over control. And I think that's a big thing, and that they choose faithfulness over quick results. So if I could leave them with that, is that if you in your leadership choose your presence and availability over control, and bring faithfulness to your work.
Bring faithfulness to your work, presence over control. I got that. So, what about your contact info, like a website or where to get your book?
Yes, yep, absolutely. So you can go to www.chaddock, that's CHADDOCK.org. The book is available on all major retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Also can be accessed through our website. And if anybody would like more information about this, or just would want to, build a relationship with me together to talk more about this, the easiest way is to send an email to DTAP, that's DTAP at Chaddock, CHADDOCK.org. DTAP at Chaddock.org.
.org. Beautiful. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Matt. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an honor.